All right, week 8 here. Coach Brandon Smith, coach's show. Big win last week against Meade County, 55-3. That was the first district game of the year. How important is it to be able to start district playoff with a win?
Yeah, I mean the district. All the games have consequences. Now with the RPI, but with the direct or with the district, you have direct consequences. So I mean that's going to seed you in the district, and that determines the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So yeah, big game. You want to start off on the right foot there and kind of get some momentum going.
Offensive side of the ball, scored 55 points, 387 total yards, 162 rushing yards, 225 pass yards. Quarterback Cam Page had another great game, going 10 for 15 passing for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. We talk every week about how efficient Cam is week in and week out through the air, but on the year he's averaging 4.1 rushing yards a game. How big of a factor does that play in success he's having through the air?
Yeah, that's part of his game. That's something that he does well. He's a very athletic kid, moves really well. And he's got some size and he moves that well too. But we try to utilize that as much as possible. He knows that. He knows that's part of his game is using his legs and not just designed quarterback runs, but if there's nothing there in his progression, then he'll take off, use his legs to create, or even just run the ball. And from a defensive perspective, that's really tough when the other team's quarterback can move and can run. You feel like you got everybody covered, and then there you go. So that can be frustrating at times. But he's done a good job of utilizing that part of his game.
Jake Carter and Justin Capps had a good game at the receiver position this past week, combining for 7 receptions, 125 yards, 3 touchdowns. On the year, Jake Carter leads the team in receptions. He's caught 41 passes on 59 targets. He's only dropped 4 passes all season long. He has 21 more receptions than the next receiver. How important is it to have a guy like Jake who you can count on, but also help keep the offense in rhythm?
Yeah, Jake is a senior, and that's part of his job. And we've talked about that. Coach Davis, our receiver coach, has done a great job with those guys, and I've had conversations with him of when you're a senior and he's done it. This is really his 3rd year starting. Really the good jobs kind of go away. It's expected now. You're expected to perform. You're expected to make plays, and he loves that. He loves that pressure. He leans into it, and he's taken on that role, and he's done a really good job. And as you mentioned, I really think the last few games here, Justin Capps has done a really remarkable job of coming on late, and he's really coming on, and he's had some big games the last 3 or 4 games.
Defense side of the ball. Defense obviously had another good game. 3 points allowed, 103 rush yards, 67 pass yards, a season high 15 tackles for loss, 1 fumble recovery, 2 interceptions, 4 turnovers. The defense was electric in this game, recording a season high 15 tackles for loss. We've talked about this this year, how important it is to force long down and distances and make opposing offenses play behind the chains. How has the defense been able to consistently get in the backfield? Is this something the defensive staff puts a big emphasis on week in and week out?
Yeah, it's just an attack aggressive side. And I thought, in the game, it was really, it was kind of a back and forth game. You had, as you were talking about, these tackles for losses, and then, we let, as we saw, the quarterback could run, and we let him get outside the pocket a couple times and run on us. And I think that's where a lot of their chunk rush yards came from. But being aggressive is the key. That's the way we've always done around here. Is we want to be aggressive on defense, and sometimes when you're aggressive, you're going to let one pop every now and then. But that's kind of the mentality, and the kids buy into that, and they've done a good job with it.
Aiden Fant had 7 total tackles. TK Darden had 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 interception. Clay Heldon had 4 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and an interception. The defense has been great all year long. Coming down the stretch in the season and finish up the rest of district play, what's the message to the defense to keep them balled in and consistently playing the way they have the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing, stay the course. And, those guys that you mentioned, I really thought Clay Helton had a really nice game. He played really well. It's his 2nd time starting. He's a sophomore, and I thought he made some plays, showed a lot of potential. And Aiden Fant did a really nice job as well. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife for us. He's played 4 or 5 different positions. We've moved him all around, but he's smart enough to be able to handle it. And when you have guys like that can step in and fill roles and perform at a high level, then you get a lot better on defense. If you're just relying on 2 or 3 guys make all the plays, then it becomes a struggle. But we've got 15, 16 guys that can play every Friday night and do a really good job and buy into their responsibility, and that makes good team defense.
Upcoming game this week on the road against Central Hardin. It's another district game. They're 0-7 on the year, coming off of a 58-8 loss last week. What's your expectations this week on how this game will go?
Well, we got a road game. It's going to be about an hour and a half, and the last one we did, we didn't really come off the bus ready to play. So to me, that's going to be a big key for us. That's part of playoffs too, is being able to take road trips and get off the bus, be locked in, ready to play. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for most. And then we had that break there, and you always want to come back off of a break, kind of hitting the ground running, getting some momentum. There's 3 weeks left of the regular season. If you kind of come out and you don't play well, you're not in a rhythm, it's really kind of hard to recover in time for the playoffs. So it's a big game in terms of momentum in the future and those type of things.
So the top-notch fan question of the week comes from Jesse McCoy. The question is, how do you keep players focused, especially after starting 7-0?
That's a good question, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. We don't focus too much on the future. It's just really about getting better every day. And I know it's kind of coach speak, but we don't talk a whole lot about our opponents ever, until the playoffs start. And it's just kind of keep your head down, stay the course, do what you're supposed to do, and then when you look up and it's November, then you're where you want to be. But if you focus on things like records or the future or those things, and you don't really progress, and everybody else around you is getting better, so you got to keep pace and try to beat them in terms of progression.
Top-notch players of the week. Offensive player of the game is Kayden York, 68 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. Defensive player of the game is Ryley Oller, 5 total tackles, 1 solo, 4 assisted, 1 tackle for loss, 1 interception, 1 defensive touchdown. Speaking of what stood out to you this week about both players' performances.
Yeah, I mean, Kayden, we talk about Kayden every week, but he is a really good player, and he's kind of the same as Jake. He don't get as many good jobs anymore. It's more, this is your role. You're expected. If you're going to be the guy type thing. And he consistently does that week in and week out. And then Ryley's he kind of falls in line with Justin Capps. He's put together 3 or 4 really nice games in a row, and then he had that defensive touchdown, but he made a lot of other plays in the game. So it's good to see him coming on, and you got more big-time players out there defensively.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Coaches Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe to all of our channels, share our Facebook posts. We will be giving away a free mini split at the end of the year. Also, don't forget to submit your fan question of the week to win a 7 Brew gift card.